Most people think building a habit is a matter of willpower. You just decide to do something, and then you do it. Every day, without fail. And if you can't do that, well, then maybe you just don't want it badly enough. That's the story we tell ourselves, and it's wrong. James Clear spent years studying the science of human behavior. He studied athletes, artists, doctors, and executives. He studied the people who changed, and the people who tried and failed. And what he found wasn't about motivation or willpower at all. It was about design. The people who built lasting habits didn't rely on wanting it more. They built systems that made the right behavior almost automatic. They understood something most people never learn. Every habit, every single one, is built from the same 4 components: a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. And if you know how to engineer each one, you can build almost any habit you want, or break any habit that's holding you back. Clear calls this framework the 4 laws of behavior change. And today, we're going to walk through every single one. Before we get to the laws, you need to understand how habits actually work. Because most people think a habit is just a behavior you repeat, but it's not. It's a loop. Every habit runs on a 4-stage cycle. First, there's the cue, the trigger that tells your brain a reward is available. Second, the craving, the motivational force behind every habit. The desire for the reward. Third, the response, the actual behavior you perform. And fourth, the reward, the outcome that satisfies the craving and teaches the brain to remember this loop for next time. Cue, craving, response, reward. That loop runs in the background of your life hundreds of times a day. Every time you check your phone, every time you reach for a snack, every time you sit down to work or avoid work. The 4 laws map directly onto this loop. 1 law for each stage. Master the laws. Master the loop. Master the loop. Master your behavior. The first law is this: make it obvious. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for cues. It's not conscious. You don't decide to notice things. Your brain does it automatically, all day long, looking for signals that predict a reward. This means your environment is shaping your behavior far more than you realize. The foods you eat, the apps you open, the habits you fall into, most of them aren't choices. They're responses to cues you've stopped noticing. Clear says, you don't need to be the victim of your environment. You can be the architect of it. If you want to read more, put the book on your pillow. If you want to take your vitamins, put them next to your coffee maker. If you want to practice guitar, put the guitar in the middle of the room, not in the case, not in the closet. Make the cue visible. Make it impossible to miss. Because out of sight is not just out of mind, it's out of habit. Clear also introduces a technique called habit stacking. Instead of trying to build a habit from scratch, you attach it to something you already do. The formula is simple. After I do this, I will do that. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write in my journal. After I sit down at my desk, I will write my 3 priorities for the day. After I get into bed, I will read for 10 minutes. The existing habit becomes the cue for the new one. You're not building something new from nothing. You're attaching it to something that already runs automatically. And finally, if you want to break a bad habit, flip the law. Make it invisible. Remove the cue from your environment entirely. Don't keep junk food in the house. Delete the apps that drain your time. Put the TV remote in a drawer. You can't resist what you can't see. So stop relying on resistance and start redesigning the environment. The second law, make it attractive. Here's something fascinating that Clear discovered. It's not actually the reward that drives your behavior. It's the anticipation of the reward. Your brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with motivation and pleasure, not when you get the reward. It releases it when you expect the reward. The wanting is more powerful than the getting. This is why habits that feel attractive in the moment are so hard to break. and why habits that feel unattractive, even when they're good for you, are so hard to build. So how do you make a good habit feel attractive? Clear recommends a strategy called temptation bundling. You pair the habit you need to do with something you genuinely want to do. Only listen to your favorite podcast while you're exercising. Only watch the show you love while you're folding laundry. Only allow yourself your morning coffee after you've journaled for 5 minutes. The habit you need becomes linked to the reward you want, and the brain starts to associate the behavior with pleasure. Over time, the habit itself becomes something you look forward to. Clear also talks about the role of culture here, and it's something most people overlook completely. We are wired to do what the people around us do. Our social environment has a gravitational pull on our behavior that is almost impossible to overpower through willpower alone. So if you want to make a habit attractive, find your tribe. Join a group where the behavior you want is the normal behavior, where people run, where people read, where people build things, where people invest. When the behavior you want to build is the expected norm in your social circle, it stops feeling like a sacrifice. It starts feeling like belonging. And to break a bad habit, make it unattractive. Understand the cost. Reframe the story. Instead of thinking, I can't have that, think, I don't want that because of what it costs me. The habit loses its appeal the moment you see it clearly for what it actually is. The third law is the one that most people fight against. Make it easy. We have this idea that the harder something is, the more virtuous it is. That struggle proves commitment. That difficulty proves discipline. Clear says that is exactly the wrong way to think about habits. The brain always moves toward the path of least resistance. That's not weakness. That's biology. The brain's job is to conserve energy. It will always choose the easier option, given the chance. So instead of fighting that tendency, design with it. Clear talks about reducing friction. Every bit of effort, every extra step between you and a behavior is a form of friction, and friction kills habits. If the gym bag is packed the night before, the friction of going to the gym is lower. If the book is already open on the nightstand, the friction of reading is lower. If the healthy meal is already prepped in the fridge, the friction of eating well is lower. Reduce the friction on the habits you want. Increase the friction on the habits you don't. Uninstall the apps. Log out of the accounts. Put the remote on the other side of the room. Make the bad habit just a little harder, and you'll do it a lot less. And then there's the rule that changed everything for a lot of people who read this book. The 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Not 2 minutes of the habit. 2 minutes to start it. Want to run every morning? Start by putting on your shoes. Want to read every night? Start by opening the book to the first page. Want to meditate? Start by sitting down and closing your eyes for 60 seconds. The point is not the 2 minutes. The point is showing up. Because every time you show up, you cast a vote for your identity. And once you start, you almost always continue. Standardize before you optimize. The habit has to exist before it can be improved. A 2-minute habit done every day will always beat a 1-hour habit done occasionally. Always. The fourth law is the one that determines whether the habit survives. Make it satisfying. Clear points to a fundamental quirk of human psychology. We are wired for immediate rewards. Throughout most of human history, the future was uncertain. What mattered was what you could get right now. That wiring hasn't changed, even though the world has. And this creates a brutal problem for good habits. Because almost every habit worth building has a delayed reward. Exercise makes you healthy in months. Saving makes you wealthy in years. Reading makes you knowledgeable over a lifetime. But the brain wants to feel the reward now. If there's no immediate satisfaction, the brain doesn't register the behavior as worth repeating, and the habit dies. So you have to give yourself an immediate reward. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be now. Cross the habit off a list and feel the satisfaction of completion. Move a paperclip from one jar to another, a physical, visible sign of progress. Give yourself 5 minutes of something you genuinely enjoy the moment the habit is done. Clear introduces a powerful tool here, the habit tracker. A simple calendar, a simple chart, a simple app. Every day you complete the habit, you mark it. And the streak itself becomes the reward. Don't break the chain. That simple phrase, "Don't break the chain," has built more habits than almost any motivational speech ever given. Because the streak is visible. The streak is immediate. The streak is satisfying. And when you do break it, because you will, and that's okay, Clear has one rule: never miss twice. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. Get back on the day after the miss. Always. Now here's something Clear adds that most people overlook. Every law has an inversion. And the inversions are the secret to breaking bad habits. To break a bad habit, make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. Hide the cue. Reframe the craving. Add friction to the response. Remove the reward. Bad habits survive because they are obvious, attractive, easy, and immediately satisfying. Disrupt any one of those four and the habit weakens. Disrupt all four and it collapses. The same framework that builds good habits dismantles bad ones. You just run it in reverse. So let's bring it all together. Law 1, make it obvious. Design your environment so the right cues are everywhere. Stack new habits onto existing ones. Remove the cues of the habits you want to break. Law 2, make it attractive. Bundle temptation. Join cultures where your desired behavior is the norm. Reframe the story around habits you want to quit. Law 3, make it easy. Reduce friction ruthlessly. Use the 2-minute rule to start. Increase friction on every habit you want to lose. Law 4, make it satisfying. Give yourself an immediate reward. Track your habits visually. Never miss twice. These 4 laws are not theory. They are a practical operating system for human behavior. And the beauty of them is this: you don't have to use all 4 perfectly. Even shifting one law in your favor can be the difference between a habit that fades and a habit that lasts a lifetime. James Clear says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." These 4 laws are your system. Build them well. Adjust them constantly. Trust the process. Pick one habit. Apply one law. Start today. And drop it in the comments. Which law are you starting with, and what habit are you building? I read every single one. If this gave you something, subscribe and share it with someone who needs a system, not more motivation. I'll see you in the next one.